Hello, so this is the project introduction to the Coil Wall Pocket project. Your project objectives are to design and create a ceramic wall pocket that uses 4 to 5 different coil styles in a decorative manner. So we're using coils as decoration rather than as a way to create the structure of a form. You're using the hand building technique to create coils in different styles. You're using coils to create a visual design that uses line, unity, visual movement, and shapes using coils. We're using the score and slip process to attach pieces of clay together, and we're demonstrating excellent craftsmanship by maintaining a consistent thickness of the coils, removing score and slip marks, managing the clay moisture level, and maintaining a smooth surface with the clay. So what is a wall pocket? And there's a couple examples there. So a wall pocket is a decorative wall-mounted object designed to hold an item, like in a pocket. Wall pockets typically hold cut pieces of flowers, succulents, and small plants, though wall pockets can hold all sorts of little items. It's similar to a vase, but it's attached to the wall. Now, this is an example of what inspired our project. There's a slab with a pocket and a design made out of coils. But of course, yours will have way more coils than what you see here. These are other examples of ceramic wall pockets created by high school students, but they of course use other features. Ours are going to be covered in coils. And you can see on this example, there's a front view and a slightly side view. So you can see how the pocket functions as a pocket. Your work is going to have way more coils. Coils is going to be the main focus for this project. During the Victorian time period in America, this would be like the late 1800s, wall pockets were actually used to hang fresh flowers in the house. They were typically made of ceramic, clay, and glass, and wall pockets were flat-backed, and when they were hung on the wall, they resembled a vase. So we could call that a wall vase, and you can see that on those two examples right there. And the point of a wall pocket was an alternative to hanging photos on the wall or displaying flowers in a vase on a table. So these are some examples of actual old wall pockets, and they're all made out of clay. Now, obviously they don't use coils, but it just gives you an idea of the different forms that were being used. And you could see here some were actually representative. Some of them have become much more decorative. And if you do a search on the internet, you can find examples like these birds. This one was made by a student. It does use some coils, but you can see how there's many ways to incorporate a pocket in the design. Now, these are not wall pockets, these are flat slabs with coils, but these are examples of how we could use coils in a decorative manner. They have been glazed, which makes it easier for us to see all the really cool details. But you can see in both of these examples here, everything is made out of coils, and that's what we're aiming for. We don't want to make things out of slabs, we're going to actually make everything out of coils. Now, actually, this is my example for our project. So we have a slab, you can see the pocket, and you can see how it's covered in lots of decorative coils. Now, a little bit of an artist spotlight. There's an artist I found, her name is Anne Marie Cooper, and she creates a lot of pieces using coils, and she makes a lot of flat pieces with coils, so that really inspires our project. She's a pottery artist based in Washington State. She works at Good Earth Pottery Gallery, where she teaches classes and creates her own ceramic art, and she actually owns that gallery. She took over the gallery after the previous owner had retired. She specializes in coil-built ceramics where the coils are in a decorative manner and sometimes structural. She'll also make bowls, as you can see. Here she has this very deep vase that's made out of coils. And these are some examples of coil works that she has created. So she says, I choose coils as my method because I love the texture, the visual interest, and the abounding possibilities. And that's true. You can make all sorts of imagery using coils. Just think of it like a series of lines that creates the shape. We're creating a wall pocket that uses coils in a decorative manner. There's 3 parts to the wall pocket. There is the base, which is the wall slab. There is one pocket, which is actually made from a pinch pot, and there's the coils. So your design will use 4 to 5 different coil styles, and you have practiced different types of coil styles. Of course, you can always make more than what you learned in our previous lesson. The design can use representational imagery or be abstract. For example, this is kind of abstract. This here is much more representational. It means we can recognize something. Now there is a size requirement for our wall pocket. The wall base, the slab wall base must be at least 7 inches wide by 10 inches tall, and the pinch pocket must be between 3 to 4 inches wide. Now the pocket should not take up too much space. As I said, we want to leave room for the coil designs. No negative space in your slab other than 2 holes that will be added so we can hang the wall pocket on the wall, and you can see it in that image right there from my example. The design should use 4 to 5 different coil styles. The coil designs should remain exposed, so we're not blending the coils together. The slab wall base should be leveled, like it's flat and smooth. The coils are a consistent thickness, so we're aiming for about 1/4 inch thick. At least 50% of the wall pocket is covered with coils. That is something you're going to be aiming for as you're designing your wall pocket. The pocket can include coils on it, so you don't leave the pocket plain. You can add coils to it. And there's an example of representational versus an abstract design. So the coil designs, they can actually extend a little outside the edge of the wall slab base. They don't have to just be tucked between the border. And the trick with this is get creative with your coil styles and your designs. This is what you really need to think about when you're planning your artwork. So you can create patterns out of the coils and incorporate them into your design, like using patterns of waves and twists and spirals. Leave space between the coils to create interesting positive and negative spaces. All right? We're not cutting into the clay, but you can have areas where there is no coil. And a great idea is to start with a shape and consider how you would create that using coils. For example, when I was planning my design with a boba, like a boba drink, I thought, okay, how am I going to create that using coils? How can I take the lines and turn them into coils? And these are 2 examples here that use coils. Now, what not to do? We don't want to use flat shapes instead of coils. The only shapes we'll be using are spheres and teardrops because you kind of flatten those when you apply them, but we don't want any thick pieces of clay. We don't want to be messy with laying the coils on the wall base. We don't want to flatten the pocket so it's a shape rather than half of a pinch pot. We also do not want to leave score marks visible, so I'll be showing you how to remove all those little score marks. We also don't want you to be sloppy with the slip application. This falls under your craftsmanship for this project. Now, what to do? And again, you've got some imagery there of coil designs. We want a solid construction of the pocket because making the wall base is really easy, but it does take a little bit of time to create that pocket as well as attach it to the wall base. We want to have clean exposed coils with a smooth surface. We need great application of the coils onto the slab. We don't want any coils falling off. And we need an intentional creative designs for the coil styles, and that's the part you're moving into next. So to consider when planning, you have a lot of things to think about. Where to place the pocket? Where are you going to put the pocket on the slab? Imagery, and basically how will you use those 4 to 5 different coil styles? Will your imagery follow a theme? Having a theme is a great way to help guide your thinking so you're not just totally lost with all the possibilities. How will you fill the design with at least 50% coils? Will you layer the coil designs? Like for example, here you can see that they've layered some of the coils on top of each other. Will your design include a border, like what's on the outer edge of the slab wall base? And in this example here, which was made out of coils, it's a flat tray, but you can see how they actually built up the walls. And a great idea, as I've said before, is to start with a shape and consider how you would create that using coils. Now, in terms of grading and assessment, your coil wall pocket will be assessed using the following criteria. So I'll be looking at your use of the 4 to 5 different coil styles in the design. Does your wall pocket meet the size requirements? The construction of your pocket and the slab wall base, including the sides and the back of the slab. The interpretation of your sketch design on paper, the use of positive and negative space with the coils, like for example, this example down here doesn't have any negative space. It's all covered in coils. And the creativity of the shapes and the design, and the craftsmanship of the coils, the pinch pot pocket, and the slab wall base. How to plan for your coil wall pocket project. So you're going to need a planning paper, and you have 4 options for the shape of the wall base slab. You have this option, which is option A. This is option B, option C, and option D. And these shapes correspond to the template that you'll use. So again, your wall, the wall base has to be at least 7 by 10 inches. And you can see that this one is actually cut to 7 by 10 inches. You could also go a little bigger, and you could create a wall base that is 8 by 11. But keep in mind that the paper that you draw on is not the same size as the actual template. So on this worksheet, in the space below, use the outline of the wall base slab to sketch the coil designs and styles. Use pencil. This plan must be approved and signed by me. Do not make your coil sketches tiny. That is something I'm going to remind you. Do not draw too small, or you end up with way more coils than what is possible. Remember to sketch the pocket, and your wall pocket must be covered with at least 50% with coils. That means in your actual drawing, you should be planning to use at least 50% with the coils. Now, if you need some ideas, because you can go representational or abstract. Now, the back side of my paper does have some examples that I drew for my own ideas. I do not want you copying them, but they give you an idea of how you could draw these different types of coils, how you could combine them. And on the bottom of your paper here, I listed possible themes. Having a theme for your artwork can make it easier when you're planning your design because you have so many options. So for example, this is meant to be a boba cup with a straw. So of course that theme would be food, but maybe you're really into nature or sport teams, or you just want to do a bunch of patterns, or you want to explore something with music. What if you want to create a design based on one of your favorite songs, or you like a certain type of weather, or you want to make something that's related to family? So with your sketches, you want to think about the outside as well as the inside. So we want to consider the positive and negative space. Positive space would be the coils that you're drawing. The negative space is the areas that don't have coils. For example, I have these star kind of shapes and these spheres. The sphere's here, right? And then there's negative space behind it. Let's say you want a single layer at the bottom, and maybe you want to have a twisted coil on the outside. So yes, try your best to draw the coil types, and you can actually label your drawing as well, right? You can actually label things on here. And don't forget though, we need to sketch the pocket. So what I found helpful was actually determining the space for the pocket first. The pocket is made using half of a pinch pot, so it's likely going to be shaped like that. So maybe I want the pocket to be right in the middle of my actual plan. So I'm going to actually draw the pocket here. But now maybe for my design, I'm going to do something with ocean waves, right? So I could start with just a line, but we need to turn them into coils. So sketch the coils, not just lines. So, right, I could then think, okay, how am I going to actually draw these as coils? And actually be intentional with your drawing. You should take a little bit of time with this, and you can add designs to the actual pocket itself. So for example, looking at this one here, this is where the pocket's going to be, but you can see I'd be adding a single layer coil on the outside edge with lots of spheres attached to it. You can see some shaped spirals as well as some regular spirals. There's my twisted. I have some kind of donut shaped coils. I've got long and short. So another thing you can think of, like when I was sketching my boba example, I looked up line drawings. I searched boba line art and I went, okay, which of these drawings could help me potentially turn this into coils with a lion? So search line art and you would find, okay, this might be too complicated, right? But how could you take something here and adapt it for coils? As you're drawing though, don't forget to identify the styles of coils that you plan to use. And if you don't know what those styles are, go back to your first lesson where you had different types of styles, right? You had those notes. So make sure you confirm. We need at least 4 to 5 different types. Once I've checked your drawing, you'll get my signature. Remember, I also have a slideshow linked in Canvas that has examples of coils used in ceramic artwork. These are not wall pockets necessarily, but they demonstrate the use of different coil styles. And so some of these have some information, but they show you different ways that coils can be used, whether it's representational or much more abstract and decorative. So the trick is, again, to just Fill this up with all different types of coils, and I look forward to seeing what you create.